This video is intended to serve as a visual guide to the installation of the Passport 9500 CI radar and laser detector. This video does not replace or change the installation information in the owner's installation manual. If you have any questions or do not understand any of the steps shown in this video, please consult the owner's manual or visit escortradar.com before proceeding with the installation. Installation of any custom-installed radar and laser detection system includes certain unique obstacles that must be taken into account in order to complete a successful installation. Improper installation may void Passport 9500 CI's warranty. If you find that after viewing this installation video it makes sense to seek professional installation assistance, please contact Escort. The first step to take after you have completely read the installation manual is to inventory all of the Passport 9500 CI product carton contents. You should match up each item listed here with the actual item enclosed. Passport 9500 CI comes with the following items: front radar receiver, a 13-foot cable with waterproof connector and inline grommet, 12 nylon zip ties to secure the cables, 2 twin front laser shifters, including 16-foot cables, optional rear laser shifters, weatherproof magnetically mounted GPS antenna, including 30-foot cable, display module, in-dash bezel for factory-installed look, control module, 6-foot radio mute cable, owner's manual and installation manual, laser shifter bridge box, interface module, amplified speaker, speaker mounting brackets and hardware, USB data cable, bicolor discrete alert indicator and matching trim bezel. If any of these components are missing, please call us immediately and we'll assist you. Comparatively, one of the most difficult steps for your installation is to locate and confirm your vehicle's switched plus 12-volt line. When we say switched plus 12-volt power, we mean that you need to find the power point that is active only when the ignition is switched on and is not load sensing and turns off with the ignition. If you cannot find or confirm that you have located the switched plus 12-volt line, please contact a professional installer. For the easiest trouble-free installation, we will install the interface first and wire it to a plus 12-volt switched circuit. Then, after we have installed the interface, we'll use the interface to hot test all of the components and confirm they are operating properly before continuing. Tip: make sure the plus 12-volt power you connect to the interface is off while the ignition is off, and that the power is off at all times while you work. Inside the vehicle, look for other fuse panels or look for radio and navigation system wires under the dash and use the 3M wire clamp. A test light is useful here, but a volt-ohm meter would be more valuable. Make sure the plus 12-volt line goes off when the key is turned off. Some systems sense load, like a cell phone charger plugged in, and leave the power on when the ignition switch is off. This will not work with the Passport 9500 CI. If you are using the fuse box for entry into the driver's compartment, you absolutely must acquire power here. Remove the fuse and locate which side is supplying power and which is the load side. Insert the flattened 9500 CI's plus 12-volt line into the fuse slot on the power side of the fuse and force the fuse leg to share the slot with the wire. Another method is to use the optional factory trick installation kit, which contains a fuse leg to a stake-on female fitting. Or try using the blue 3M connector that's provided to tap into an existing circuit if needed. Tip: always leave the inline 2-amp fuse on the interface power supply. Do not shorten the wire beyond the fuse. Negative ground is normally a matter of finding a metal part and an available screw, or enough out-of-the-way access to drill a small hole and use a self-tapping screw or pop rivet to secure the ground connection. Make sure that this spot is connected to vehicle ground. Now we'll use the installed interface to test all of the system components. Again, do not turn on the power to the interface until after you have plugged in all of the system components. Plug in each system component into its matching color-coded plug. Tip: it is easier to work top to bottom, left to right. Plug in the display module, the control module, the bicolored concealed alert indicator. Skip the radio mute and USB plugs. Plug in the front radar receiver. Plug the front laser shifters and optional rear shifter into the bridge box. Plug the bridge box into either front shifter D2 ports and the optional rear shifter into the rear shifter port. Plug in the GPS antenna. Set the GPS receiver outside if possible. Be sure that all components are plugged into the correct connector before applying power to the unit. Now that everything is properly plugged in, apply power. If everything is working, you will see the Passport 9500 CI on the display. If you receive an error message, turn the power off and call us immediately. While the system is powered up, consider that the Passport 9500 CI comes preset with factory recommended settings. However, if you wish to activate laser shifting countermeasures, this function must be turned on in the user preferences. Now is a good time to do this by holding down the volume and bright buttons together and go to the Preferences programming mode.
Preferences.
Once in the programming mode, step through the options by repeatedly pressing the volume button to get to Bands, and step down the options in Bands by pressing the bright button until Laser is displayed.
Laser receive only.
Then press the mute button to step through to Shift. Wait 8 seconds and the new settings will be stored in memory as the Passport 9500 CI leaves programming mode by indicating with the display word Complete. If you pause more than 8 seconds at any time during the programming mode, the Passport 9500 CI automatically leaves programming mode and stores any changes made. If you want to recall all factory preset modes, simply press and hold Sensitivity and Volume while powering the unit up until the display reads Reset. Then you can release the buttons. Tip: remember that a factory reset turns laser countermeasures off. All other Passport 9500 CI components plug into the interface module. The interface module is not designed to be waterproof, so it must be installed inside the vehicle or a weatherproof fuse box. We recommend that you locate a spot under the dash, near where you located switched plus 12-volt power, with enough room to accommodate at least a 10-wire bundle and be able to plug 8 wires into the face and 2 plugs into the top. This is often near the spot where you located plus 12-volt switched power on the side dash panel, under the dash, behind the console, or in or behind the glove box. The ears on the sides are for looping zip ties through to attach the interface to large wire bundles or structural pieces. Avoid the brake pedal, emergency brake, clutch, or steering hardware for mounting. The laser shifter bridge box connects the laser shifters to the interface module. It should be installed inside the vehicle near the interface module and connected with the supplied 1-foot cord. The display module provides visual status of every alert message and vehicle speed and user command confirmations provided by the Passport 9500 CI. When selecting a spot for your display, you should locate the display where it would be easy to see during all driving situations. The display will be providing you with numerous status messages throughout the life of your vehicle. Make sure that you can read all of this valuable information. Some of the information provided on the display includes Power On Self-Test, Power On Passport 9500 CI Confirmation, Confirmation of GPS Satellite Information Lock, as shown here by a flashing icon, and Locked. Vehicle speed, including during a radar or laser speed monitoring encounter. This is a more accurate speed reading than your speedometer. User preference options and settings. Confirmation of false alarms automatically learned by the system. Note, the Passport 9500 CI notes every X-band or K-band signal by location and looks for repeat patterns like drugstores, gas stations, grocery stores, and other locations with automatic door openers. After the third confirmation of the same signal, the Passport 9500 CI alerts you that it is going to ignore these signals in the future. If for some reason a patrol car is present, running continuous X or K-band radar, and you accidentally make 3 passes, like 3 in 20 minutes, as the patrol car is probably going to move eventually, then the system will add this signal to the location to be ignored. However, on future passes, if the patrol car signal is not present, after a few passes that signal will be removed from the blocked signals for that location. The same is true if the driver manually blocks that location on pass 1 or 2, and a patrol car is present. The Passport 9500 CI will unlearn that signal if the car is absent a few times. Confirmation the driver has disabled laser shifting countermeasures. This is for times when the driver has confirmed that the vehicle speed is now within legal limits and wishes an accurate speed measurement be taken. While the shifters are disabled, the driver gets confirmation of any laser hits, but no defense mechanisms will be engaged. Confirmation that the laser shifters are once again armed. This occurs 60 seconds after the shifters are disabled. The display module comes with adhesive backing. Thoroughly clean the surface where you wish to mount the display with alcohol and remove any grease or wax. A small sticker with a trash can X'd out logo designates the display as an active electronics item, which should be recycled appropriately. It also means don't throw this away or any other parts until you are finished. Mount the display using the pre-applied adhesive. The power and data cords exits the side of the display, but the cord can be rotated to exit the left edge of the rear of the display to tuck behind trim pieces or instrument bezel covers. Installers who have the proper cut, strip, and crimp tool to reapply RJ11 plugs can also just cut the plug off and route the wire through a newly created 3/16 hole. Route the cable to the interface and plug into the connector labeled Display Module. For vehicles with enough geography to accommodate a flush-mounted installation, the Passport 9500 CI comes with a trim bezel. Note that the factory-installed lens must be snapped off and the display snapped into the bezel just prior to the final mounting step. A template is included in the package. An X-Acto knife or Dremel tool makes nice hole-cutting tools. Make sure there are no cables, wires, or AC ducts behind the drilled hole area. When drilling or cutting interior trim pieces, first cover the surface of the panel with masking tape to prevent accidental scratches. Some custom speed shops have added panels to house the display bezel. More custom options can be viewed in the Cool Installations web pages found on our site at escortradar.com. Some drivers prefer to rely on voice audio alerts and the bicolored flashing concealed LED. In this case, the display module can be mounted in an ashtray or sunglass compartment, in the center console, or a glove box. We recommend programming all user preferences, including activating laser shifting countermeasures, during the open bench test if the display is going to be hard to view after installation. The display module also comes with a photodiode which senses the presence of light to make the display brighter in direct sunlight and darker at night. Mounting the display under or inside any cover will make the display light dimmer. You can overcome this by manually controlling the display brightness by selecting your preference on the Bright button on the control module. The control module provides the driver control over mute, volume, driver-stored false alert location marking or true lock, known speed trap marking, and setting up preferences. These buttons are backlit for easy location at night. During a radar alert, the mute button is the only active button for sound muting. In a laser attack, the mute button mutes the audio with a single tap and disables the laser countermeasures by tapping twice. When deciding on a location, convenience and ease of reach are your primary concern, as this is the spot you'll be pressing the mute button, confirming GPS True Lock, and setting up user preferences. Right-handed drivers typically mount the module on the lower dash panel to the right of the steering wheel, on the edge of the console facing the driver's knee, or on the front edge of the center console, just under the armrest. Left-handed drivers may mount to the left of the steering column for maximum ease of use. The button used most often is the mute button, which is why it's centrally positioned and the largest. You should be able to easily locate this button. Clean the mounting surface thoroughly. Mount the control module using the pre-applied adhesive. Route the cable to the interface and plug into the connector labeled Control Module. Secure and conceal the cable under trim panels. The GPS antenna requires a clear view of the sky. The magnetic base can be used on most vehicles to mount on the roof or on a trunk lid. For vehicles with non-magnetic surfaces such as fiberglass, carbon fiber, aluminum, or plastic, a window-mounted bracket is included for interior mounting. It can also be mounted on a dashboard or the rear deck using double-sided tape. Mount the GPS antenna being sure the roof racks or other obstructions do not block the view, or you may choose the interior mounting bracket. Choose a location on the inside of the windshield or rear window that will provide a wide, clear view of the sky. This is usually near the base of the window or just left of the rearview mirror for metallized windshields. Insert the 3 suction cups into the holes on the mounting bracket, clean the window thoroughly with alcohol, and place the bracket on the window and press the base of the suction cups firmly. Tip: to increase the adhesion of each cup on the window, squirt a small amount of hairspray or other light adhesive onto the surface of the suction cup that mates with the window and apply firmly. Place the GPS antenna on the mount using the magnetic base and align the edges. Secure the cables using zip ties or conceal it under interior trim pieces. If externally mounted, locate a suitable entry point into the vehicle. Refer to the front wire routing tip section for locating a suitable entry point. Route the cable through the entry point and secure along its path. If mounting near a front or rear window, it is usually possible to tuck the cable underneath the gasket surrounding the glass. Once inside the vehicle's interior, route the cable to the interface and plug into the connector labeled GPS module. The amplified powered speaker is the only source of alert audio tones, voice alerts, and audible programming confirmations, so its use is important. The most common location for the amplified speaker is under the dash above the driver's knees. Attach the mounting hardware and use zip ties to secure the speaker. On vehicles with heavy sound-absorbing panels above the driver's knees, you may need to drill some sound holes through the panel to get the sound level high enough for the driver to hear over music. Some installers loop zip ties daisy-chain together and looped over wiring bundles and feed these through the holes in the trays to secure the speaker under the trays. Once you have determined the best location for the speaker, whether it's behind the dash or console, under the dash, or under the seat, make sure that it is loud enough to be heard during an alert. Route the cables to the interface and plug into the jacks at the top of the unit marked Speaker Power and Speaker Audio. Secure and conceal the cables under the trim panels. When installing the optional Escort Live module, supply switched 12-volt power to the direct wire cord. Then plug the display module into the cord, and the cord into the Escort Live module. The Escort Live module then connects to the display port on the interface module with a 3-foot cord. The bicolored LED is intended to provide an additional visual alert warning. The best location is a position that is frequently monitored, like the areas around the speedometer or on the top of the steering column. The LED can be nestled into a trim mating joint without the small round trim bezel. Or you can drill a 1/4-inch hole and feed the LED through the back of the hole, snap on the round trim bezel, and pop the assembly into the hole from the front. Again, when drilling holes in any part of the automobile, you should know what is behind the surface you're drilling. And you should cover the mounting surface with masking tape to prevent accidental scratches. Carefully mark the location and drill a 1/4-inch hole through the mounting panel. From the front side, snap one of the panel bezels provided to the hole. Snap the alert indicator into the panel bezel from the back side. Route the cable to the interface plug and into the connector labeled Concealed Alert LED. Secure and conceal the cable under trim panels. Many factory-installed and aftermarket radios have an audio mute option to mute the radio, CD, or MP3 audio when a cell phone or other alert rings. The radio mute cable allows the detector to be connected to compatible audio systems with a radio mute wire or connector. Once connected, the audio level of the stereo is reduced automatically during an alert. The standard method is to connect the radio's mute wire to ground and mute the audio. Verify that this is the way your radio mute function works before attempting to use this option. If not, do not attempt to control any of the vehicle's audio by the 9500 CI without trained assistance and aftermarket control modules. During an alert, the Passport 9500 CI takes pin 1 to ground on the radio mute jack on the interface. The radio mute function requires that auto mute be turned on, which is the factory standard, and the vehicle must be going over 20 miles per hour. You may decide to drill a hole behind the license plate for a clean entry inside the trunk or inside a liftgate. Be careful not to damage lock release mechanisms or any wiring inside. If you have decided to drill a hole in your vehicle, you might consider drilling it into the spare tire well in the trunk floor. A piece of soft aluminum wire makes a nice snake for running wires through flexible rubber conduits to the inside of the trunk. Refer to the segment Routing Wires to the Vehicle Interior. There are often many existing entry points at the rear of the vehicle as well. Gaskets behind license plates, around illumination, lamps, and near trunk lid hinges. Tail light wiring gaskets are often easily accessible and large enough to add cables. A fast way to route the wire from the trunk to the area under the dash is to tuck the wire under the carpet edge and under sill plates and kick plates. Once inside the vehicle's interior, route the cable to the bridge box and plug the bridge box into the rear shifter port of the interface module. Tip: for all wire routing, be sure to secure cables away from moving parts and hot surfaces. In the front, route the opposite side shifter wires to the receiver and use electrical tape or zip ties to hold the 3-wire bundle together, and route the wires back to your passenger cabin entry spot on the firewall. Look for a soft, unused grommet. If your vehicle has an automatic transmission but is also available in a standard transmission model, there may be a large unused grommet where the clutch pedal linkage would be. Cut a slit in the unused grommet and feed the wires inside. Another option to route the wires from outside to inside is to look for a large grommet around a wire bundle that can be pulled aside and then allow the wires to be tucked into the grommet hole. Wrap 2 to 3 rounds of electrical tape around a 3-wire bundle in the section exactly at the grommet edge to help keep the firewall edge from cutting the wires. Use black silicone rubber sealant to seal around the enlarged hole in new wires. Another option is to drill holes in the plastic fuse box sides, where there is room inside for protruding grommets, and an opening is clear to feed the wires under the dash inside. Drill a 7/16 hole for each grommet. Thoroughly investigate all locations before drilling any holes. Ensure that no wires, hoses, or other vehicle components will be damaged. Before drilling, cover the surface to be drilled with masking tape to prevent damage to the anti-corrosion coating in the event the drill bit slips. Another option is to use the fresh air inlets under the cowl covers to provide a path inside the driver's compartment. Look for other openings under cowl covers and filter housings, like compartments with brake fluid reservoirs. Another alternative is to drill the holes in the firewall under the dash to the floor pan, or under the seat after removing the seat. A quality crimper for modern connectors can be used to cut cables to length and replace the connector. Removing the connectors may also make it easier to enter the vehicle's interior through existing openings. Note: only an exact replacement for the standard connector can be used. Do not attempt to cut the wires unless the proper connector and crimping tools are available. Once connectors are cut from the wire, the connectors cannot be reused. Do not cut the cable too short. Provide enough cable to route the interface and add a couple extra feet to ease installation. Install the new connector such that the locking tab is in the same side as the color-coded stripe on the cable. If you have the tool to strip and crimp a new RJ11 plug connectors, you can also cut the plug connector and use a sharpened 1/8-inch steel rod as a needle and tape the connector wires to the end of the rod with electrical tape or any vinyl tape and thread the wire through an in-service or empty grommet. This makes for a watertight connection, and several individual wires can be threaded through the same grommet through different entry holes. Do not use duct tape, as it leaves a residue on your dart needle and hangs up on entry. Gojo hand cleaner, the non-pumice type, makes a nice lubricant for the threading process. Feed the harness into the vehicle's interior and to the interface. If entering through a drilled hole, pull the grommet on the harness until the end sticks through the hole. From inside of the vehicle, pull the grommet through until it seals against the outer surface. When pulling the inline grommet into the entry point, apply rubbing alcohol to this section of the cable to reduce friction and quickly pull the grommet along the length. If you use needle nose pliers to pull the plastic plugs through the drilled holes or grommet, be careful not to break the locking tab off, and do not put pressure on the gold fingers. The plastic meshes down and prevents finger contact with the interface. To get the best performance possible, the mounting location of the radar receiver is critical. Although radar signals will pass through some types of plastic, mounting the radar receiver so that it has a clear view of the road will ensure maximum warning. The radar receiver must be mounted horizontally, and the arrow must face forward, as this is the forward surface and is critical to proper radar receiving operation. The receiver can be turned upside down if this facilitates easier installation. The receiver can be hidden behind non-metallic plastic body parts, but not behind any surface that has a chrome or gold-plated appearance. In many vehicles, you can remove the radiator condenser shroud and mount the receiver behind the grille. Using the supplied U-shaped bracket and the right-angle mounting bracket, mark the mounting location. Drill pilot holes in the vehicle if necessary. Mount the radar receiver using the supplied hardware. It is recommended that the radar receiver be secured to the brackets first and then the brackets and receiver mounted to the vehicle. Plug the radar receiver into the harness and route the cable toward the interior of the vehicle. Secure the cable with zip ties. Although waterproof, it is best to locate the inline connector in a dry area, protected from moving parts, road debris, and hot surfaces such as radiator hoses, exhaust headers, and turbochargers. Escort provides 2 laser shifters in order to increase attack detection capability. As an option, 2 additional laser shifters can be installed for added protection. Each shifter has its own self-contained laser receiver and responder with its own built-in microprocessor. In an attack, the shifter's #1 priority is to receive and start responding. The second priority is to engage the other shifter's response mechanism and finally alert the driver. All of this happens in milliseconds. Please remember when you are installing the control module that the mute button can disarm all countermeasures with just a double tap during an alert, so that the control module must be comfortably within reach. The driver will still be informed of the laser attacks, but no defense mechanisms will be engaged for 1 minute after the defense response is disabled. A back-on confirmation will be announced after 1 minute. Be extra careful during this long 60-second pause as the shifters are temporarily disabled. Determine the best locations for the laser shifters. For optimum performance, install each laser shifter on either side of the license plate with an unobstructed view of the road. If possible, mount each laser shifter halfway between the license plate and the corner of the vehicle. Since laser signals will not pass through objects, including most plastics, it is critical that the laser shifters are mounted perfectly level and have an unobstructed view looking straight ahead up the road. The top of the surface is formed 90 degrees to the face in order to make attachment under horizontal surfaces easier with Scotch VHB tape. Another option is to use bolts, nuts, and washers, and mount the sensor to the supplied L-shaped bracket and tighten firmly. Using screws, mount the L-shaped bracket with the sensor attached to a solid surface behind the vehicle grille. Aftermarket custom brackets are also available for some cars. This can provide an easier installation and a factory look. Once the shifters are mounted, use the supplied bubble level and check the alignment of the sensor. Ensure that it is parallel with the road to within 5 degrees. Route the cables to the entry point into the vehicle's interior through the opening and plug them into the appropriate connectors on the bridge box. Remove the fuse from the interface power feed. Plug everything into the correct location on the box. Insert the fuse. If you do not hear anything, this is a good sign. Start the vehicle. Passport 9500 CI will cycle through its startup sequence. If the Passport 9500 CI powers up and begins looking for a satellite signal, this is a good sign. If the vehicle is indoors, it may be unlikely that a GPS signal will be acquired. If any error messages appear, see the Owner's Manual troubleshooting section for suggested solutions. Recall that all laser shifters are shipped in the receive-only mode. If you haven't done so already, this would be a good time to enter the Preferences mode and turn the laser countermeasures on.
Laser receive only. Shifting.
If no error messages are displayed, you are free to finish tying up loose wires, securing the interface block, and reinstalling all body parts and dash pieces. The optional installation tricks kit contains 1 modular connector crimping tool, 15 new uncrimped modular connectors, 3M VHB acrylic foam tape, 2 fuse leg taps and stake-on connectors. The VHB tape can be used to mount the radar receivers and shifters where flat surfaces exist and are created with the brackets or custom-made brackets as shown earlier. Remember to adhere to the 2.5 degrees maximum off level for the shifters. You should have enough VHB tape to cover and contact all mounting surfaces for both front shifters, the radar receiver and the rear shifter. VHB tape is not recommended for use on interior trim pieces, as removing any tape can remove finished interior paint. When using the tape, all surfaces should be free of any oils or greases. Solvent-based cleaning followed by alcohol cleaning is recommended. 3M recommends application temperatures between 70 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. When pressing and setting the tape, 50% of the ultimate bond strength will be achieved in 20 minutes, 90% after 24 hours, and 100% after 72 hours. If you need to reposition or remove a receiver or shifter, use a shearing twisting motion versus attempting to pry the pieces apart. The crimper and plugs are used to shorten up wire lengths and remove the plugs to make finishing the wires in the passenger compartment easier. If you decide to cut the factory plugs off, mark the wires with some identifier and keep the original plugs for insertion guides. You can use the crimper to cut the plugs off, strip the right length, and insert the new modular plug, being careful not to cut the interior wires, which may require adjusting to the depth of the stripper blades. And crimp the new plug on by first inserting the wires to the right orientation into the new plug, snapping the plug into the crimper socket, and squeezing the crimper closed strongly. You should verify that the wires are still completely inserted into the plug and are in the right orientation by comparing the factory wire orientation on the cut plug with that on yours, and that the crimp is snug by tugging slightly. If you end up with an error message about one or more loose connections on final installation, you will be glad that you hot tested the system components with the interface and power completely before installing any pieces, and you can start inspecting your crimping jobs. AT&T spent years developing this plug design and attachment procedure for reliability and ease of completion. You will more than likely get it right the first time. Thank you for taking the time to watch the Passport 9500 CI installation video. Our hope is that this video will assist you in your own custom installation. For more information, please call our customer service line or technical support